Hello, this is Alan Wheeler, back with part 2 of the video on the Norse runes. Answer the question, what is the good fight? My friend Jorge, I think it's pronounced, from Spain, requested a video on the runes, so I combined it with my thinking recently about gods of warfare in the modern context, and how, for me anyway, the good fight is not against flesh and blood. It's not against people. It's not real. It's not really against other nations, except when absolutely necessary. And the conditions for a just war can be found in the Bhagavad Gita and with Augustine and other great thinkers, but I think common sense tells us it should be a last resort, and that those of us who work with deity associated with war are not necessarily in live combat, but maybe working in hospitals, at schools, maybe battling cancer or addiction, maybe social justice warriors, or have other good causes and battles to fight. So I do think that the real war is should be higher, should be in other realms, and so I'm exploring that question with the runes. Now, in the last video, I showed the book that I got this exercise from, Olson's Runes for Transformation, and he has a section where he shows how to take the Futhark of inanimate objects, and he goes through a boat and applies each rune to the boat. And a couple examples here. Fehu, the worth or value is the money paid for the boat, the value the boat has to the people who use it. If it's a working boat, it provides income for the crew. So he applies each of the runes to a physical boat. I'm using the same principle, but applying each rune to the question, what is the good fight? Now, my habit has been to introduce something from the altar in each video. I can't remember if I've shared this before, but I recently acquired the Celtic Tree Oracle. Here's an example of one of the beautiful cards that I pulled in a daily draw. This is Tene, or holly, and it can mean struggle through adversity, as those evergreen leaves and red berries make it through the winter. It's been associated with the crown of thorns, and so that's yet another kind of battle or struggle that the holly, the prickly, thorny holly, could represent in its ability to live through those winter months. But this is the Celtic Tree Oracle by Sherilyn Hidalgo, recommended to me by the Woodland Hag. Thank you so much. Great channel, great recommendation on the Oracle deck that follows along with the Irish Ogham sticks. But that's another video and another story. I put a link in the last video to another video I made some time ago on the American magic runes, and in the beginning of that video I introduced some of my rune sets, one of which I made myself, and here I drew Tiwaz, which is associated with Tyr, who is another god of war, a certainly one who makes the sacrifice. He sacrificed his arm in the Battle of Ragnarok to subdue the wolf, Fenrir wolf, and that arrow pointing up reminds me of the focus to stay on the narrow path and to fight that good fight, that kind of righteous battle, to borrow a word that's probably out of favor today. But that's associated with Tyr and the good fight. So very relevant draw yet again, randomly from the runes. Okay, well, we'll see if how far I'm able to get, whether this will be 2 or 3 videos, but I'm going to at least work my way through the second set, or Ayet, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, the second family of runes of 8, and I will share the tarot cards I associate with it as applied to the good fight. So I would probably draw other tarot cards in other contexts. So this is just blending the runes with this idea of the good fight and drawing some tarot cards alongside to help illustrate or illuminate. So the next rune is Hagalaz. Hagalaz. And it means hail, destruction, just as hail can come down and destroy the crops. And so the card I picked from tarot was the destruction of the tower, that archetypal destruction. And whether as a warning or as a real-life experience, the forces of hail can be something we face in battle, and we need to renew our focus, renew our strength. It could be the final battle, the final judgment that comes in a situation. And that plague-like destruction. It could also perhaps be something like D-Day, that breakthrough battle that determines the rest of the war. So that turning point, perhaps. So I'll need to sit with that a little bit more. But Hagalaz, and to me that big H, it just reminds me that war is hell, and it can turn our world upside down. It can, it should be avoided when possible. In the physical, as far as physical fighting and physical wars, but perhaps we could apply that to other kinds of battle that are so difficult. The next rune is Nodhiz, and it means need, what is needed or lacking. It reminds me of barren ground, when there's the fig trees are not producing figs. There's no cattle, there's no grapes on the vine. And the tarot card, in fact, I picked 2 tarot cards. One was the familiar 5 of coins or 5 of pentacles with the wounded and poverty-stricken people left out in the cold, here outside of the stained glass. They are in need. And here's the grief of the spilled milk in the 5 of cups as the figure bemoans what is lacking, what is missing, what has been lost. And this is a powerful motivation to battle. And even, if I recall correctly, Odin's name and Wodan, similarly, ends with this letter, with this rune, the N. And it suggests that even the God, even the All-Father, is driven by the need to accomplish something. Perhaps avoid Ragnarok, or get the wine of poetry, to get the runes, to acquire wisdom, to attain the battle frenzy, or whatever it might be. But as we say, stay hungry, and that can be something that drives us to fight the good fight. And there's the poem, "Do not go gentle into that good death. Go down fighting." In other words, so a powerful rune. The next one is Isaz. It means ice. Something is frozen. So it can mean stuck, I think. But it can also mean that wilderness wandering, when you are left out in the cold, that dark night of the soul. And some cards that I picked for this were the 4 of Cups. The figure is satiated, kind of oversatisfied. And the 8 of Swords, where the figure is, again, in such stasis, or such stability that it's almost like a cage, almost like being bound and blindfolded in this situation. How I would apply this, I think, to the good fight is that sometimes we've had enough, and it's not something we want to do. This figure seems to be saying, take this cup away from me. I don't want to drink it. And so it may not always be the pleasant thing we want to do. It may take some energy to break free and to do the discipline, to do the work required to overcome and to fight the good fight. So that rune of ice reminds me of tarot cards representing that kind of stasis. The next card is Jera. It can mean harvest. It means year, but it can represent the harvest, that festival, the first fruits, the full harvest that comes at the end of the year, that reward of sowing and reaping that comes. So the happy card, the high energy, that celebration of the 4 of Wands, that fruition after a time of waiting. And so this is a good energy to keep in mind, that there will come the reward. That if we do fight the good fight, the time will come. Hopefully sometimes when the rune shows up, it means the time is here and we can enjoy the fruits of our labor and the harvest, the reward for the battle we have fought. The next rune is Aiwass, and it means yew, associated with the yew tree. It's the same reversed, and I'm told, or I've read, that the wood is used to make the bow for use with the bow and arrow as a weapon, whether of defense or attack. So that's probably a good rune for the battle. So I picked the Ace of Swords, since it can be a weapon, and the energy of strategy and victory coming into play. But I also, this is a complex rune that's found planted in on the edge of graveyards, and the seeds can be very toxic as well. So I'm reminded that the one who lives by the sword will die by the sword as well. So we can't reverse it. So the two are really, the seeds of this ending are in the ace of this beginning. So the yew tree can be associated with the graveyard and death. And certainly we need to take that into account when we decide to fight any fight, to take up any battle, whether in the realm of words and debate, or spiritual battle of some kind. There could come this dramatic transition, the destruction, the saying goodbye to something, and crossing that river into whatever the maybe perhaps unknown new life or new experience is going to be. So the yew, Aiwass. The next rune is Perth. Pertho, although I'm told that it's the origin and meaning of this rune is very mysterious. In fact, it has come to be interpreted as mystery itself at times. And so I have chosen the High Priestess, and I think it helps us to remember that there is ambiguity and mystery when we go into some kind of war, even fighting the good fight. I'm reminded of an angel in the Bible story. Joshua encountered this supernatural figure and said, "Are you for us or for our enemy?" And this being replied, "Neither, but as commander of the Lord's armies, I am now come." And so there was that ambiguity. Oh, you're not for either side. The deity seemed to be for neither side. I recently read a story of the Morrigan, how she was prophesying, giving poetic warnings as well as poems of reward between two warring sides. And the words seem to apply to both. Both words of warning of the battle and reward of the battle were being given to both sides. So there's ambiguity here. We don't know whether we will win or lose. And it's a bit of a gamble. Sometimes this has been called the lot cup, for shaking up the dice cup, for casting the dice similar to lots, to see what chance will bring. The High Priestess, of course, is the keeper of the mysteries and ambiguities. So I thought of this card regarding Perth or Pertho. I suppose the dice, the random aspect could relate to the Wheel of Fortune, as round and round she goes, where she stops, nobody knows. And we don't know what the fates will bring as that wheel turns. The next rune is Algiz. It means elk, but it's like a refuge, a protection. It's like I see the antlers there of the protective elk, and it may be that hiding place, that kind of defensive armor. And I chose the King of Swords as a picture of this energy, as he is a protector. And sometimes I've drawn this card, and it's come up as a reminder of Odin's energy as well. But that certainly applies to the good fight, as we may be the protectors, and we may need to access this energy to be protected or to protect. The final rune from this set is Sowilo, and it means the sun. And of course, the sun card from tarot corresponds nicely. And deities have sometimes been called a sun and a shield, as well as a sun as well as a shield, a bright light. The sun has risen with healing in its wings. And so oftentimes this card just reminds me that we can use the metaphor, take the metaphor of battle and war too far. Really, sometimes the weapons of our warfare in the good fight are healing and love and compassion. And I heard, I can't remember the source of the saying, that in love's battle only wounded soldiers can serve. So it's a different way of thinking. The good fight is different from, I think, your typical fight. And so the sun does show the child, the naked child, riding in on a white horse with a banner of victory. And it reminds me of the song, "Here Comes the Sun," breaking through and bringing light, healing, life. So this is a good place to stop and recall what is worth fighting for and what the real battle is when we fight the good fight. Thank you so much for watching. It looks like we'll have to go to a part 3 because of the length. But as always, I hope you will have connection with people in your life, an online community that you'll feel that love and connection as well, and on your spiritual path, whatever that might be. Again, thank you so much, and take care.